Good morning, guys. Happy Saturday. So our proverb for today is Proverbs 16:5. It says, "The Lord detests all the proud of heart. Be sure of this, they will not go unpunished." So that's our proverb for today. And now we're going to get into the book. Okay, guys. So if you remember yesterday, we are on quality time, love language number 2. But we're actually going to finish that out today. I think we have a couple more pages on that. Then we're going to get into love language number 3, receiving gifts. And I was going to, if it didn't let me do a whole video, I was just going to combine the 2 videos together. So this video may be a little bit longer because for Monday, Lord's will be on Day 7 will be on love language number 4, acts of service. So we'll be like on page 91 or so. And today we're on page 69. Okay, it's looking like it's doing it again. Still learning it, y'all. Okay, so let's jump back into this, guys. And ask that the Lord bless our reading together. Okay, He cares about me. He was willing to do something with me that I enjoy, and He did it with a positive attitude. That is love, and for some people, it is love's loudest voice. One of Emily's favorite pastimes is browsing in used bookstores. And guys, it's like 7. I just got up maybe like 15 minutes ago, so my voice is still, but I'm coming on to read. Okay, so I love to browsing in used bookstores. I love to just disappear into the stacks and see what treasures I can find, she says. Husband Jeff, less of an avid reader, has learned to share these experiences with Emily and even point out books she may enjoy. Emily, for her part, has learned to compromise and not force Jeff to spend hours in the stacks. As a result, Jeff proudly, says, "I vowed early on that if there was a book Emily wanted, I would buy it for her." Jeff may never become a bookworm, but he has become proficient at loving Emily. Quality activities may include putting in a garden, visiting historic sites, birding, going to a concert, working out together, or having another couple over for homemade soup and bread. The activities are limited only by your interest and willingness to try new experiences. The essential ingredients in a quality activity are: number 1, at least one of you wants to do it. 2, the other is willing to do it. 3, both of you know why you are doing it, to express love by being together. One of the byproducts of quality activities is that they provide a memory bank from which to draw in the years ahead. Fortunate is the couple who remembers a foggy early morning stroll along the coast. The spring they put in the prairie garden, the day they revisited their childhood neighborhood, the night they attended their first Major League Baseball game together, the one and only time they went skiing together and he broke his leg, the quiet times of working side by side at night in their home office, and oh yes, the awe of standing beneath the waterfall after the 2-mile hike. They can almost feel the mist as they remember. Those are memories of love, especially for the person whose primary love language is quality time. And where do we find time for such activities, especially if both of us have locations outside the home? We make time just as we make time for lunch and dinner. Why? Because it is just as essential to our marriage as meals are to our health. Is it difficult? Does it take careful planning? Yes. Does it mean we have to give up some individual activities? Perhaps. Does it mean we do some things we don't particularly enjoy? Certainly. See Jeff and Emily. Is it worth it? Without a doubt. What's in it for me? The pleasure of living with a spouse who feels loved and knowing that I have learned to speak his or her love language fluently. A personal word of thanks to Mark and Andrea in Little Rock, who taught me the value of love language number 1, words of affirmation, and love language number 2, quality time. Now it's on to Chicago in love language number 3. And then it says your turn. What in your marriage detracts from spending quality time? And now we're on page 71 let's talk about stealing quality time. If your spouse's love language is quality time. So these are like the nuggets and points with words of affirmation, but it's just the ones for quality time. So let's see. Yeah, this has 8 too. Okay, so number 1, some couples are together a lot more than others. If that's the case for you, don't try to make all your time together quality time. Designate specific times and places for planned togetherness. Number 2, ask your spouse for a list of 5 activities that he would enjoy doing with you. Don't assume you know. Make plans to do one of them each month for the next 5 months. If money is an issue, space the freebies between the "we can't afford this" events. Number 3, one way to share quality time at a distance is to include your spouse in your day as it is happening. Send a photo of something you saw on your walk to the office, or relay a funny incident that happened in a meeting. One woman said, "My husband sent a photo of him, my daughter, and the dog sitting on our front porch. I was at work and it made me feel like I was hanging out with them." Number 4, think of an activity your spouse enjoys, but which brings little pleasure to you. SEC, football, crafting, nature photography. Tell your spouse that you are trying to broaden your horizons and would like to join them in this activity sometime this month. Set a date and give it your best effort. 5, plan a weekend getaway just for the 2 of you sometime within the next 6 months. Be sure it is a weekend when you won't have to be in touch with the office or have a family commitment. Focus on relaxing together, doing what one or both of you enjoy. Number 6, make time every day to share with each other some of the events of the day. When you spend more time watching the news than you do listening to each other, you end up more concerned about the Middle East than about your spouse. Or when you spend more time on Facebook than you do listening to each other, you end up more concerned about your 100 friends than about your spouse. You have to do chores anyway. Number 7. You have to do chores anyway, so talk as you dust, declutter, and do laundry. It will make the work go much faster. Number 8, read the travel section in the Sunday paper together and dream out loud about places you like to go. Whether you actually go to these places or not, it's fun to imagine together. So now, guys, we're on receiving gifts. Love language number 3, chapter 6, receiving gifts. Eric spent a year in Kelsey's friend zone before she agreed to go out with him. Since they were both big baseball fans, Eric took her to a minor league game in Indianapolis. They were sitting in a grassy area beyond the left field fence when suddenly a hard-hit drive came their way. Eric jumped up and made an impressive barehanded catch, his first home run grab ever. 2 days later, Kelsey found a gift wrap package outside her dorm room. She opened it and found a baseball in a small plastic display case, the kind collectors use. Taped to the inside of the case was a ticket stub from the game. Inscribed on the ball was the date of the game in these words: "First home run catch, second best thing to happen to me that day." They were married 2 years after that first date. 15 years later, that baseball, still in its display case, sits on Kelsey's dresser where she can see it every day. It is the first thing she would grab if the house were on fire. A reminder of love. When I studied anthropology, I was able to visit people groups all over the world. I went to Central America and studied the advanced cultures of the Mayans and the Aztecs. I crossed the Pacific and studied the tribal peoples of Melanesia and Polynesia. I studied the Eskimos of the northern tundra and the Aboriginal Ainos of Japan. I examined the cultural patterns surrounding love and marriage and found that in every culture I studied, gift giving was a part of the love-marriage process. Anthropologists are intrigued by cultural patterns that tend to pervade cultures, and so was I. Could it be that gift giving is a fundamental expression of love that transcends cultural barriers? One of my anthropology field trips was to the island of Dominica. Our purpose was to study the culture of the Carib Indians, and on the trip I met Fred. Fred was not a Carib, but a young black man of 20 of 28 years. Fred had lost a hand in a fishing by dynamite accident. Since the accident, he could not continue his fishing career. He had plenty of available time, and I welcomed his companionship. We spent hours together talking about his culture. Upon my first visit to Fred's house, he said to me, "Mr. Gary, would you like to have some juice?" To which I responded enthusiastically. He turned to his younger brother and said, "Go get Mr. Gary some juice." His brother turned, walked down the dirt path, climbed a coconut tree, and returned with the green coconut. "Open it," Fred commanded. With 3 swift movements of the machete, his brother uncorked the coconut, leaving a triangle hole at the top. Fred handed me the coconut and said, "Juice for you." It was green, but I drank it, all of it, because I knew it was a gift of love. I was his friend, and to friends, you give juice. At the end of our weeks together, as I prepared to leave that small island, Fred gave me a final token of his love. It was a crooked stick 14 inches in length that he had taken from the ocean. It was silky smooth from pounding upon the rocks. Fred said that the stick had lived on the shores of Dominica for a long time, and he wanted me to have it as a reminder of the beautiful island. Even today, when I look at that stick, I can almost hear the sound of the Caribbean waves, but it is not as much a reminder of Dominica as it is a reminder of love. Let's read the bubble. It says, visual symbols of love are more important to some people than others. A gift is something you can hold in your hand and say, "Look, he was thinking of me," or "She remembered me." You must be thinking of someone to give him a gift. The gift itself is a symbol of that thought. It doesn't matter whether it costs money. What is important is that you thought of him. And it is not the thought implanted only in the mind that counts, but the thought expressed and actually securing the gift and giving it as the expression of love. Mothers remember the days their children bring a flower from the yard as a gift. They feel loved even if it was a dandelion or a flower they didn't want picked. From early years, children are inclined to give gifts to their parents, which may be another indication that gift giving is fundamental to love. Gifts are visual symbols of love. Most wedding ceremonies include the giving and receiving of rings. The person performing the ceremony says these rings are outward and visible signs of an inward and spiritual bond that unites your two hearts in love that has no end. That is not meaningless rhetoric. It is verbalizing a significant truth. Symbols have emotional value. Perhaps that is even more graphically displayed near the end of a disintegrating marriage, when the husband or wife stops wearing the wedding ring. One husband said, "When she threw her wedding rings at me and angrily walked out of the house, slamming the door behind her, I knew our marriage was in serious trouble. I didn't pick up her rings for 2 days. When I finally did, I couldn't stop crying." The lonely ring stirred deep emotions within the husband. Visual symbols of love are more important to some people than to others. That's why individuals have different attitudes towards wedding rings. Some never take the ring off after the wedding. Others don't even wear a wedding band. If receiving gifts is my primary love language, I will place great value on the ring you have given me, and I will wear it with pride. I will also be moved emotionally by other gifts that you give through the years. I will see them as expressions of love. Without gifts as visual symbols, I may question your love. Gifts come in all sizes, colors, and shapes. Some are expensive and others are free. To the individual whose primary love language is receiving gifts, the cost of the gift will matter little unless it is out of line with what you can afford. If a millionaire gives only $1 gifts regularly, the spouse may question whether that is an expression of love. But when family finances are limited, a $1 gift may speak $1 million worth of love. And this says, to invest in loving your spouse is to invest in blue chip stocks. Gifts may be purchased, found, or made. The husband who finds an interesting bird feather while out jogging and brings it home to his wife has found himself an expression of love, unless, of course, his wife is allergic to feathers. For the man who can afford it, you can purchase a beautiful card for less than $5. For the man who cannot, you can make one for free. Get the paper out of the trash can where you work, fold it in the middle, take scissors and cut out a heart, write "I love you" and sign your name. Gifts need not be expensive. But What of the other person who says, I'm not a gift giver. I didn't receive many gifts growing up. I never learned how to select gifts. It doesn't come naturally for me. Congratulations, you have just made the first discovery in becoming a great lover. You and your spouse speak different love languages. Now that you have made that discovery, get on with the business of learning your second language. If your spouse's primary love language is receiving gifts, you can become a proficient gift giver. In fact, it is one of the easiest love languages to learn. Where do you begin? Make a list of all the gifts your spouse has expressed excitement about receiving through the years. They may be gifts you have given or gifts given by other family members or friends. The list will give you an idea of the kind of gifts your spouse will enjoy receiving. If you have little or no knowledge about selecting the kinds of gifts on your list, recruit the help of family members who know your spouse. In the meantime, select gifts that you feel comfortable purchasing, making, or finding, and give them to your spouse. Don't wait for a special occasion. If receiving gifts, is his or her primary love language, almost anything you give will be received as an expression of love. If she has been critical of your gifts in the past and almost nothing you have given has been acceptable, then receiving gifts is almost certainly not her primary love language. Okay, we're on page 80 for you following along with me in your book. But if you don't have it, it's fine, because like I said, we're reading it all together and I'm reading it to you guys. So now let's talk about the best investment. If you are to become an effective gift giver, you may have to change your attitude about money. Each of us has an individualized perception of the purposes of money, and we have various emotions associated with spending it. Some of us have a spending orientation. We feel good about ourselves when we are spending money. Others have a saving and investing perspective. We feel good about ourselves when we are saving money and investing it wisely. If you are a spender, you will have little difficulty purchasing gifts for your spouse. But if you are a saver, you will experience emotional resistance to the idea of spending money as an expression of love. You don't purchase things for yourself. Why should you purchase things for your spouse? But that attitude fails to recognize that you are purchasing things for yourself. By saving and investing money, you are purchasing self-worth and emotional security. You are caring for your own emotional needs in the way you handle money. What you are not doing is meeting the emotional needs of your spouse. If you discover that your spouse's primary love language is receiving gifts, then perhaps you will understand that purchasing gifts for him or her is the best investment you can make. You are investing in your relationship and filling your spouse's emotional love tank. And with a full love tank, he or she will likely reciprocate emotional love to you in a language you will understand. When both persons' emotional needs are met, your marriage will take on a whole new dimension. Don't worry about your savings. You will always be a saver. But to invest in loving your spouse is to invest in blue chip stocks. Okay, so let's talk about the gift of self. There is an intangible gift that sometimes speaks more loudly than the gift that can be held in one's hand. I call it the gift of self, or the gift of presence. Being there when your spouse needs you speaks loudly to the one whose primary love language is receiving gifts. Sonia once said to me, "My husband loves softball more than he loves me." "Why do you say that?" I inquired. "On the day our baby was born, he played softball. I was lying in the hospital all afternoon while he played softball," she said. "Was he there when the baby was born?" "He stayed long enough for the baby to be born, but 10 minutes afterward he left. It was awful. It was such an important moment in our lives. I wanted us to share it together. I wanted Tony to be there with me." That baby was now 15 years old, and Sonia was talking about the event with all the emotion as though it had happened yesterday. I probed further. "Have you based your conclusion that Tony loves softball more than he loves you on this one experience?" "No," she said. "On the day of my mother's funeral, he also played softball." "Did he go to the funeral?" "Yes, he did. He went to the funeral, but as soon as it was over, he left to go to get... Wait, hold on. As soon as it was over, he left to get to his game. I couldn't believe it. Guys, sometimes my eyes move faster than what I'm reading. So sometimes I have to go back or just slow down and read. I've learned to get better with that over the years with the channel, like over the last 3.5 years or so. But that's been happening since I was little. So sometimes if y'all see me doing that, I'm catching myself to read with pace. Okay, so I couldn't believe it. My brothers and sisters came to the house with me, but my husband was playing softball. Okay, later I asked Tony about those two events. He knew exactly what I was talking about. And I tend to read like that with things that I'm excited about or things that interest me. So, I don't know. So he knew exactly what I was talking about. I knew she would bring that up. He said, I was there, through all the labor. And when the baby was born, I took pictures. I was so happy. I couldn't wait to tell the guys on the team, but my bubble was burst when I got back to the hospital that evening. She was furious with me. I couldn't believe what she was saying. I thought she would be proud of me for telling the team. So the bubble says, if the physical presence of your spouse is important to you, I urge you to verbalize that to your spouse. And when her mother died, she probably didn't tell you that I took off work a week before she died and spent the whole week at the hospital and at her mother's house doing repairs and helping out. After she died and the funeral was over, I felt I had done all I could do. I needed a breather. I like to play softball, and I knew that would help me relax and relieve some of the stress I'd been under. I thought she would want me to take a break. I had done what I thought was important to her, but it wasn't enough. She has never let me forget those 2 days. She says that I love softball more than I love her. That's ridiculous. He was a sincere husband who failed to understand the tremendous power of presence. His being there for his wife was more important than anything else in her mind. Physical presence in the time of crisis is the most powerful gift you can give if your spouse's primary love language is receiving gifts. Your body becomes the symbol of your love. Remove the symbol and the sense of love evaporates. In counseling, Tony and Sonia worked through the hurts and misunderstandings of the past. Eventually, Sonia was able to forgive him, and Tony came to understand why his presence was so important to her. If the physical presence of your spouse is important to you, I urge you to verbalize that to your spouse. Don't expect him to read your mind. If, on the other hand, your spouse says to you, I really want you to be there with me tonight, tomorrow, this afternoon, take his request seriously. From your perspective, it may not be important, but if you are not responsive to that request, you may be communicating a message you do not intend. A husband once said, when my mother died, my wife's supervisor said that she could be off 2 hours for the funeral, but she needed to be back in the office for the afternoon. My wife told him that she felt her husband needed her support that day and she would have to be away the entire day. The supervisor replied, if you are gone all day, you may well lose your job. Oh, wow. My wife said my husband is more important than my job. She spent the day with me. Somehow that day, and I know some jobs that used to be like that too, some supervisors. So that's why I'm like, wow, somebody died and, it's crazy. Okay. So my wife said, my husband is more important than my job. She spent the day with me. Somehow that day, I felt more loved by her than ever before. I've never forgotten what she did. Incidentally, she didn't lose her job. Her supervisor soon left, and she was asked to take his job. See, look at God. That wife had spoken the love language of her husband, and he never forgot it. So let's talk about Miracle in Chicago. Okay, I was just looking at something. Okay, almost everything ever written on the subject of love indicates that at the heart of love is the spirit of giving. All 5 love languages challenge us to give to our spouse, but for some, receiving gifts, visible symbols of love, speaks the loudest. I heard the most graphic illustration of that truth in Chicago, where I met Doug and Kate. They attended my marriage seminar and agreed to take me to O'Hare Airport after the seminar on Saturday afternoon. We had 2 or 3 hours before my flight, and they asked if I would like to stop at a restaurant. I was famished, so I readily assented. Kate began talking almost immediately after we sat down. She said, "Dr. Chapman, God used you to perform a miracle in our marriage. 3 years ago, we attended your marriage seminar here in Chicago for the first time. I was desperate," she said. "I was thinking seriously of leaving Doug and had told him so. Our marriage had been empty for a long time. I had given up. For years, I had complained to Doug that I needed his love, but he never responded. I loved the children, and I knew they loved me, but I felt nothing coming from Doug. In fact, by that time, I hated him. He was methodical person. Okay, I'm going to just leave that alone. He did everything by routine. He was as predictable as a clock, and no one could break his routine. For years," she continued, "I tried to be a good wife. I did all the things I thought a good wife should do. I had sex with him because I knew that was important to him, but I felt no love coming from him. I felt like he stopped dating me after we got married and simply took me for granted. I felt used and underappreciated. When I talked to Doug about my feelings, he'd laugh at me and say we had as good a marriage as anybody else in the community. He didn't understand why I was so unhappy. He would remind me that the bills were paid, that we had a nice house and a new car, that I was free to work or not work outside the home, and that I should be happy instead of complaining all the time. He didn't even try to understand my feelings. I felt totally rejected." "Well, anyway," she said as she moved her tea and leaned forward, "we came to your seminar 3 years ago. I did not know what to expect, and frankly, I didn't expect much. I didn't think anybody could change Doug. During and after the seminar, he didn't say too much. He seemed to like it. Then that Monday afternoon, he came home from work and gave me a rose." "Where did you get that?" I asked. "I bought it from a street vendor," he said. "I thought you deserved a rose." I started crying. "Oh, Doug, that is so sweet of you." On Tuesday, he texted me from the office at about 1:30 and asked me what I thought about his picking up a pizza for dinner. That may not sound like a big deal to most people, but Doug never does anything like that. I told him I thought the idea was wonderful, and so he brought home a pizza, and we all had a fun time together. I gave him a hug and told him how much I enjoyed it. When he came home on Wednesday, he brought each of the kids a box of Cracker Jacks, and he had a small potted plant for me. He said he knew the rose would die, and he thought I might like something that would be around for a while. I was beginning to think I was hallucinating. I couldn't believe what Doug was doing or why he was doing it. Thursday night after dinner, he handed me a card with a message about his not always being able to express his love to me, but hoping that the card would communicate how much he cared. "Why don't we get a babysitter on Saturday night and the two of us go out for dinner?" he suggested. "That would be great," I said. On Friday afternoon, he stopped by the cookie shop and brought each of us one of our favorite cookies. Again, he kept it as a surprise, telling us only that he had a treat for dessert. By Saturday night, she said, I was in orbit. I had no idea what had come over Doug or if it would last, but I was enjoying every minute of it. After our dinner at the restaurant, I said to him, "Doug, you have to tell me what's happening. I don't understand." She looked at me intently. "Dr. Chapman, this was a man who never gave me a gift ever. He never gave me a card for any occasion. He always said it's a waste of money. You look at the card and throw it away. He never bought the children anything and expected me to buy only the essentials. He expected me to have dinner ready every night. I mean, this was a radical change in his behavior." I turned to Doug and asked, "What did you say to her in the restaurant when she asked you what was going on?" "I told her that I had listened to your lecture on love languages at the seminar and that I realized that her love language was gifts. I also realized that I had not given her a gift in years, maybe not since we had been married. I remembered that when we were dating, I used to bring her flowers and other small gifts, but after marriage, I figured we couldn't afford that. I told her that I had decided that I was going to try to get her a gift every day for 1 week and see if it made any difference in her. I had to admit that I had seen a pretty big difference in her attitude during the week. I told her that I realized that what you said was really true and that learning the right love language was the key to helping another person feel loved. I said I was sorry that I had been so dense for all those years and had failed to meet her need for love. I told her that I really loved her and that I appreciated all the things she did for me and the kids. I told her that with God's help, I was going to be a gift giver for the rest of my life. She said, excuse me guys, my nose, but Doug, you can't go and buy me gifts every day for the rest of your life. You can't afford that. Well, maybe not every day, I said, but at least once a week. That would be 52 more gifts per year than what you have received in the past 5 years. I don't think he has missed a single week in 3 years, Kate said. He is like a new man. You wouldn't believe how happy we have been. Our children call us lovebirds now. My tank is full and overflowing. I looked at Doug, but what about you, Doug? Do you feel loved by Kate? Well, 87, guys. Oh, I've always felt loved by her, Dr. Chapman. She does so much to help me and the kids. She takes care of the finances, knows where we all have to be when, stays in touch with my family on Facebook. I know she loves me. He smiled and said, now you know what my love language is, don't you? I did, and I also knew why Kate had used the word miracle. Gifts need not be expensive, nor must they be given weekly. But for some individuals, their worth has nothing to do with monetary value and everything to do with love. Then it says your turn. Reflect on ways to give gifts even if finances are tight. Okay, so this is like the same thing, but this one has 9, and this is for receiving gifts. So if your spouse's love language is receiving gifts. So here's the first point. You've heard of the 12 days of Christmas. How about 12 days of gifts for your spouse's birthday or your wedding anniversary? Number 2, let nature be your guide. The next time you take a walk through the neighborhood, keep your eyes open for a gift for your spouse. It may be a stone, a stick, or a feather. You may even attach special meaning to your natural gift. For example, a smooth stone may symbolize your marriage with many of the rough places now polished. A feather may symbolize how your spouse is the wind beneath your wings. Number 3, discover the value of handmade originals. Make a gift for your spouse. This may require you to enroll in an art or crafts class, painting, wood carving. Your main purpose for enrolling is to make your spouse a gift. A handmade gift often becomes a family heirloom. Number 4, when money is tight, think of appropriate symbolic gifts. Look at pictures of beautiful horses and daydream about what kind of house you would have if money were no object. Instead of plane tickets, go on a flight of fancy to Dubai or Sydney. Number 5, excuse me guys. Okay, number 5, keep a gift idea notebook. Every time you hear your spouse say, I really like that, or I would really like to have one of those, write it down in your notebook. How many of us have the experience of asking someone what they want for their birthday or Christmas and getting the response, oh, I don't know? Listen carefully and you will get quite a list. This will serve as a guide when you get ready to select a gift. To prime the pump, you may look through a favorite online shopping site together. Okay, number 6. It's page 89. Enlist a personal shopper. If you really don't have a clue as to how to select a gift for your spouse, ask a friend or family member who knows your wife or husband well to help you. Most people enjoy making a friend happy by getting them a gift, especially if it is with your money. Okay, number 7. Offer the gift of presents during an especially hard time in your spouse's life. Perhaps if he's caring for an elderly parent or she's dealing with a job crisis. Number 8, give your spouse a book and agree to read it yourself. Then offer to discuss together a chapter each week. Don't choose a book that you want him or her to read. Choose a book on a topic in which you know your spouse has an interest. Sex, football, gourmet cuisine, investing, child rearing, religion, history. Number 9, give a lasting tribute. Give a gift to your spouse's favorite charity in honor of her birthday, your anniversary, or another occasion. Ask the charity to send a card informing your spouse of what you have done. The church or charity will be excited, and so will your spouse. So the next one is going to be chapter 7. hold on, let me get a bookmark, which is going to be acts of service. And here's the contents, guys. So far we've done the contents and acknowledgments. We've done number 1, what happens to love after the wedding. We've done 2, keeping the love tank full. 3, falling in love. 4, love language number 1, words of affirmation. 5, love language number 2, quality time. 6, love language number 3, receiving gifts. So Monday, Lord's will, we're on chapter 7, which is love language number 4, acts of service, page 91. And then just like continuing on, Lord's will, for next week, and shortly the week after, what we should be done with this book soon, we'll be talking about the remainder of them. Like acts of service on Monday, Lord's will, we'll talk about physical touch. After that, discovering your primary love language. Love is a choice. Love makes a difference. Loving the unlovely. A personal word. Frequently asked questions. I think I have chapter 13 broken down into 2 days. But it talks about a personal word, frequently asked questions, the 5 love languages profile for couples. They have one for her, one for him, and one for her, then notes. So I think I have 13 in my notebook broken up into day 13 and 14.